Below are 50 questions and answers based on all the vocabulary from the 2 pages. Each answer uses the target vocabulary naturally, followed by a detailed English explanation. Number 50, questions and answers, vocabulary practice. Number 1, what does foreign mean? Answer, foreign means from a country that is not your own. Example, I'm learning a foreign language. Explanation, foreign is an adjective. It describes something connected with another country or culture. In a foreign language, it means a language that is not your native language. 2. What is the gist of something? Answer, the gist is the general or main meaning without all the details. Example, I didn't understand every word, but I understood the gist of the article. Explanation, if you understand the gist, you understand the main idea. You do not necessarily understand every word or detail. 3. What is a text? Answer, a text is written material such as the words in a book, article, or newspaper. Example, I read an interesting text about learning languages. Explanation, text refers to written content. It can be short or long and can appear in books, websites, newspapers, or other sources. What does recognize mean? Answer, recognize means to know someone or something because you have seen or heard them before. Example, I recognized my old teacher immediately. Explanation, you already have previous knowledge of the person or thing. Recognition is different from identification. Recognition means realizing that something is familiar. 5. What does go through mean? Answer, go through means to read, examine, or check something carefully from beginning to end. Example, I went through the vocabulary list before the test. Explanation, here, go through is a phrasal verb. It means carefully examining something rather than simply looking at it quickly. 6. What does identify mean? Answer, identify means to recognize something and determine exactly what it is. Example, can you identify the main problem in this sentence? Explanation, when you identify something, you recognize it and give it a clear description, name, or classification. 7. What does guess mean? Answer, guess means to give an answer when you are not completely sure that it is correct. Example, I didn't know the meaning of the word, so I guessed. Explanation, a guess is based on limited information rather than certainty. In vocabulary learning, you can often guess meaning from context. 8. What is context? Answer, context is the surrounding information that helps you understand a word, phrase, or situation. Example, try to understand the word from the context. Explanation, the words before and after an unfamiliar word can provide clues about its meaning. What does keep a record of mean? Answer, keep a record of something means to write and save information so that you can remember or check it later. Example, I keep a record of every new word I learn. Explanation, keep a record of emphasizes storing information over time. A vocabulary notebook is a good example. 10. What does make a note of mean? Answer, make a note of something means to write it down, usually so you remember it later. Example, make a note of this new expression. Explanation, it is similar to keep a record of, but make a note of often suggests writing down one particular piece of information. 11. What is a construction in grammar? Answer, a construction is the way words are arranged and used together in a sentence. Example, this sentence uses a common grammatical construction. Explanation, construction here does not mean building a house. It refers to a particular grammatical pattern or structure. 12. What is a translation? Answer, a translation is a text or version of something changed from one language into another. Example, I read an English translation of the French article. Explanation, the original text is expressed in another language while keeping the original meaning as closely as possible. 13. What does repeat mean? Answer, repeat means to say or do something again. Example, could you repeat the question, please? Explanation, we often use repeat when we did not hear or understand something the first time. 14. What does explain mean? Answer, explain means to make something clear or easier to understand. Example, the teacher explained the grammar rule clearly. Explanation, when you explain something, you give information or reasons that help another person understand it. 15. What does pronounce mean? Answer, pronounce means to produce the sounds of a word correctly when speaking. Example, how do you pronounce this word? Explanation, pronounce concerns the spoken form of a word. The noun is pronunciation. 16. What is an opportunity? Answer. An opportunity is a good or suitable chance to do something. Example, this course gives me an opportunity to practice English. Explanation. An opportunity is a situation in which something useful or desirable is possible. What does experiment with mean? Answer. Experiment with means to try something in order to discover what result it produces. Example, I like to experiment with different ways of learning vocabulary. Explanation, you try different methods instead of always using the same one. You are testing what works best. 18. What does make mistakes mean? Answer, make mistakes means to do something incorrectly. Example, don't be afraid to make mistakes when speaking English. Explanation, the correct collocation is make a mistake, do a mistake. Mistakes are a normal part of learning. 19. What does revise mean? Answer, revise means to study something again, especially to prepare for a test. Example, I need to revise these vocabulary words tonight. Explanation, revision involves reviewing information that you have already studied so that you remember it better. 20. What is a method? Answer, a method is a particular way of doing something. Example, this is an effective method for learning vocabulary. Explanation, a method describes the procedure or technique you use to achieve a result. 21. What does work mean in this method works? Answer, here work means to be effective or produce the desired result. Example, this vocabulary method works well for me. Explanation, work does not have a job here. It means the method is successful or effective. 22. What is a conversation? Answer, a conversation is a talk between two or more people. Example, we had a long conversation about English learning. Explanation, conversation is a general word for communication between people. It can be formal or informal. 23. What is a chat? Answer, a chat is a friendly and informal conversation. Example, I had a quick chat with my friend after class. Explanation, chat normally sounds more casual than conversation. It often describes relaxed everyday communication. 24. What is a discussion? Answer, a discussion is a serious or organized conversation about a particular subject. Example, we had a discussion about the best way to learn vocabulary. Explanation, in a discussion, people exchange ideas, opinions, information or arguments about a topic. 25. What is an argument? Answer, an argument is a discussion in which people strongly disagree. Example, they had an argument about which method was better. Explanation, argument can mean a disagreement often involving strong emotions. It is different from a neutral discussion. Questions, combining several vocabulary words. 26. How can you understand a difficult foreign text? Answer, first, try to understand the gist, then use the context to guess unfamiliar words. Explanation, you should not immediately stop at every unfamiliar word. First, understand the general message, then use surrounding information to work out difficult vocabulary. 27. What should you do if you don't recognize a word? Answer, you can use the context, guess its meaning, and then check a dictionary. Explanation, this is an efficient vocabulary learning strategy. Context gives you clues, while a dictionary can confirm your guess. Now, 28. Why should you keep a record of new vocabulary? Answer, you should keep a record of new vocabulary because it helps you revise the words later. Explanation, writing vocabulary down creates a useful learning resource. You can return to it regularly for revision. 29. Why should you make a note of unusual grammatical constructions? Answer, because recording unusual constructions helps you remember how words are used in real sentences. Explanation, learning a word alone is not always enough. You should also learn its grammatical pattern or construction. 30. When should you use a translation? Answer, you can use a translation when it helps you understand the meaning of a difficult text or expression. Explanation, translation can be useful. You do not necessarily need to translate every word. Context can sometimes give you enough information. 31. What can you ask someone to do if you don't understand them? Answer, you can ask them to repeat or explain what they said. Example, could you repeat that? Or could you explain that, please? Explanation, these are polite ways to ask for clarification during a conversation. 32. Why is it important to know how to pronounce new words? Answer, correct pronunciation helps other people understand you when you speak. Explanation, knowing the spelling and meaning of a word is not enough for effective communication. You also need to know how to say it. Hash now 33. How can you use an opportunity to improve your English? Answer: you can use every opportunity to speak, listen, read, and experiment with new vocabulary. Explanation: an opportunity is a chance to do something. Regular opportunities for practice can accelerate language development. 34. Why should language learners experiment with new vocabulary? Answer: they should experiment with new vocabulary to discover how words are naturally used. Explanation: using a word in different sentences helps you understand its meaning, grammar, and common combinations. 35. Why shouldn't you be afraid to make mistakes? Answer: because mistakes are a natural part of learning and they show you what you need to improve. Explanation: if you never try because you're afraid of mistakes, you have fewer opportunities to practice and learn. 36. How often should you revise vocabulary? Answer: you should revise vocabulary regularly rather than studying it only once. Explanation: regular revision strengthens memory. If you learn a word once and never review it, you may forget it quickly. 37. Is there one perfect method for learning vocabulary? Answer: no. Different methods work for different learners. Explanation: one person may learn best through reading, while another may prefer speaking, writing, flashcards, or listening. The important point is to find a method that works for you. Schnapp 38. What does this method works for mean? Answer: it means the method is effective for me. Explanation: here, work means produce the result I want. For example, if a vocabulary technique helps you remember words, you can say it works for you. 39. What is the difference between a conversation and a chat? Answer: a conversation is a general talk, while a chat is usually more friendly and informal. Explanation: conversation is broader. Chat emphasizes a relaxed, casual style. 40. What is the difference between a chat and a discussion? Answer: a chat is usually informal and relaxed, whereas a discussion usually focuses seriously on a particular subject. Explanation: you might chat with a friend about your weekend, but you might have a discussion in class about education. Amjana 41. What is the difference between a discussion and an argument? Answer: in a discussion, people exchange ideas, while in an argument, people disagree strongly. Explanation: a discussion does not require disagreement. An argument normally involves opposing opinions and can become emotional. 42. How can context help you guess a word? Answer: context gives you clues from the words and ideas surrounding the unfamiliar word. Example: if a sentence says the road was extremely crowded, so traffic was moving very slowly, you can guess that congested relates to heavy traffic. Explanation: you use information around the unfamiliar word rather than immediately translating it. 43. Why should you go through a text more than once? Answer: going through a text again can help you notice vocabulary, grammar, and details that you missed the first time. Explanation: on the first reading, you can focus on the gist. On the second reading, you can examine vocabulary and constructions more carefully. 44. What is the difference between recognize and identify? Answer: recognize means realizing that something is familiar, while identify means determining exactly what something or someone is. Example: I recognized the word, but I couldn't identify its meaning. Explanation: you may recognize a word because you have seen it before, but still not know exactly what it means. Nash 45. What is the difference between keep a record of and make a note of? Answer: both mean writing information down, but keep a record of often suggests maintaining information over time, while make a note of often means writing down something specific. Example: I keep a record of all my vocabulary, but I made a note of one important expression. Explanation: the two expressions overlap, but their emphasis is slightly different. 46. What is the noun form of repeat? Answer: the noun is repetition. Example: repetition is important when learning vocabulary. Explanation: repeat is a verb, while repetition is a noun. The noun describes the act or process of doing something again. 47. What is the noun form of explain? Answer: the noun is explanation. Example: the teacher gave a clear explanation of the grammar rule. Explanation: explain describes the action of making something clear. Explanation names the information that makes something clear. 48. What is the noun form of pronounce? Answer: the noun is pronunciation. Example: her pronunciation is very clear. Explanation. Pronounce is the action of saying a word, while pronunciation refers to the way a word is spoken. 49. What is the noun form of revise? Answer. The noun is revision. Example, I did some revision before the English test. Explanation, revise is the verb. Revision is the process of studying something. 50. How can you become better at learning vocabulary? Answer, you can identify important words, guess their meanings from context, keep a record of them, revise them regularly, and experiment with different learning methods. You should also use new vocabulary in conversations, chats, and discussions, even if you sometimes make mistakes. Explanation. This answer combines the main vocabulary learning strategy from the unit. First, identify useful vocabulary. Then use context to understand it, record it, revise it, and practice using it. The goal is not simply to memorize words, but to recognize, understand, pronounce, and use them naturally.